Oh, there it is.
You're recording.
I just got a message.
Got it.
Are we ready to?
Yes.
I'd like to call September 20th development order. We did conduct an executive meeting. Real estate, legal matters. This meeting is recorded. Could I get a flag, please?
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America, to the republic for one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Meeting. Any questions, deletions to those minutes? Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous August 16th meeting with any necessary revisions or corrections.
Ricky, could I get a second? Thank you. All those approving the August 16th meeting minutes?
Aye.
Opposed. We have paperwork Suzanne has prepared for us. Any questions to those payers?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jack. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All accounts payable? Aye. Opposed. Additions, deletions, modifications, I don't have to have any. Presentation. Everybody. So, I submitted a rendering. Plan I have to. Purchase that model as well, so my plan now is and what I'm proposing is a 24,000 square feet. We have two lots for the businesses and ready to present you guys for I have an update. Some outdoor seating for some restaurant space, restaurant beside the building. Along that area again, there's outside dining and question. These are the updated ones. These are the updated ones showing
We have.
Yes, there.
My engineer and architect will accommodate for not the line. There's no, there's no financing. I did most of my probably request, I think I requested 35, I could probably get them ordered if they did the final work.
Question. Your third floor, sir, how high is that floor to ceiling?
It's been brought to my attention, maybe for some menu higher requirements. So right now, it's just well, we could go higher. Because that's not a problem adjustment. But there is, I know there's some biotech that do require some HVAC requirements that for the need for a higher space, and that's one of the considerations I have with the market.
Okay. Yeah, I see where you're pointing. It's so small, I can't.
Son.
That's small. How you seen that?
You're saying that you have roof stand on the first floor. What you're showing back. Here's my concern. You've got to drive through 2 lanes. I don't know. Once for not.
That, so that's a dedicated lane tower, and 1 lane for any kind of fast food or drive up. That makes sense?
I see that you acquired the lot behind, which was a great grab. Menu for that. Have you thought about, and I know you have the prints in front of us now, and you probably already had the architect design this, but have you thought about going 4 floors since you've acquired the extra?
I am willing to consider, depending on leasing activity, I don't have too much speculative space, so right now, if things go according, I'll have a first floor leased and the whole second floor, that building. So, right now, a lot of space in town, so, but listen, it's gonna take at least 6 months to plan, and if things start picking up and I get more activity, I make more money, more, another floor, just from the costing, a lot of costs, the extra floor is not gonna be more site work, so, I will consider the fourth floor if it makes sense.
You've got a third floor that's packed now. You could rent it, then you can think about putting the fourth floor.
The site work is pretty much 2 floors, 3 floors, 5 floors, site work basically. So,
I would love to see that.
I think from a standpoint of all that, same material, on 90, so it's gonna be a nice looking building. I have a great relationship with that, whole design team, so, I don't have any problems with 190, I'm not expecting any more for this one. They've been right on the project with me since day one. The third week and just kind of doing the title work and doing some of the design work, so, I'm not expecting.
I see it. I see it. I see actually architecture.
Yeah, it's kind of the
Yeah,
same.
it's kind of the same.
It's kind of that kind of same look we had in the one. No stucco.
No stucco.
You may have
They have
something
something in
here, I'm sifting through it trying to find it. Concept to completion.
Excuse me?
You may have said the answer to this already. Your concept to completion.
My concept to completion?
So start to finish.
Oh,
What's your timeline?
Typically 2 to 3 months design approval and start construction 3 months. I should have it done in a year. After that, no problem. Actually, probably a little less, but just get set here.
Any further questions?
You said that you have contacted the lot behind it.
I have a meeting with him on Friday. We have a verbal agreement for the price. And he's going to execute the agreement to sell on Friday, on Wednesday.
Isn't that
Yes.
gas
Yeah.
from?
He's on that lot forever.
I know, the lot is completely full. That's my question. Not being that that's a bad thing, I think this is a beautiful project. Okay.
Any further questions for this gentleman?
Not at all.
Now, what we have on our new business agenda is letter C, to consider action of 300. And I think that the action that we would consider is to have Lou start doing a redevelopment agreement. Is that correct?
I 100% support that.
We need a redevelopment agreement, and this, if you want to have your attorney give him a letter, or better yet, maybe save some legal on, have your attorney talk to him, see what we gotta do to put this thing together.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because we had a little bit, some little issues with 190 just from the.
It might be better if they speak instead of.
Exactly. Okay, good. Okay.
So, I would like to make a change to C, consider action on 300 East Lincoln Highway presentation. I would say that the action that I would propose is for Lou to begin with a redevelopment agreement. I hope you get the third floor ready.
And the fourth.
Give me a train station quickly and no problem.
Well,
I'm just joking. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
yes, we would all like to see that quickly.
Yes.
Okay, next thing we have is IDG Development.
Good job, by the way. Good presentation.
Recording in progress.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Basically, kind of gives you a visual of what we're conceiving here. What you're seeing on the left side, the larger building, about 100,000 square foot footprint, which consists of the arena itself and a number of pieces of programming, such as give or take about 10,000 square feet of retail, bar and restaurants, and then of course the track itself, the 200-meter indoor international track that Dave can elaborate on far better than I can. About 2,500 to 3,000 fixed seats that can scale up depending on what programming is taking place in the facility. And then of course our multi-purpose space within the middle of the track. And I always, the easiest way for me to conceptualize this for others is basically when you go to the Wells Fargo Center and you're in that facility, which is a tremendous facility, which is about 20,000 fixed seats, similar, the shrunken down, more accessible suburban kind of setup where all the price points are much more achievable, and it's just something that can be used on a much more regular basis. We argue in large part that those types of large, major urban centers are, they're dark a lot of the time because it just takes such a tremendous event to fill those types of seats. So a lot of activity that we intend to pack in this type of facility. In addition to that, we also, as shown here as the field house, which represents, we're somewhere between 35 and 45,000 square feet. We're talking to an adult fitness user that also it's got a strong brand throughout Chester County, and they're looking at a couple of different uses that would be a tremendous collaboration, which we have spoken to you kind of in an executive session about, as well as medical partners and physical therapists, sports performance, and all that good stuff that they can elaborate a little bit more on. Just another visual of it, and actually, you guys are all familiar with Dane Tillman, our local celebrity artist. Well, we wanted to take an opportunity to celebrate the talents in our community, and we have reached out to Dane to commission a mural, whether it be at that location or somewhere on the facility. There's going to be plenty of wall space to really highlight some of our community members, just to touch on that. But most importantly, what we intend to do with this facility is create the greatest economic impact that we possibly can, and that is direct and indirect spend for tourists coming into the community, whether it be spending money again in the facility or lodging, going to restaurants, all that good stuff. So as you can see, this type of facility is going to be a major draw, both county-wise, regionally wise, and nationally, and even internationally. So while I've always argued, these youth sports complexes are sexy and they do a lot of great things for the community, their outreach is only goes so far. What this type of facility does, specifically with the cycling piece, is that it really, because of it's such a pioneering piece related to the cycling, it's going to have such a tremendous draw. Like, we will redefine cycling as a professional sport in the United States here in Quinzel with this facility. You name it, lots of good things that we're working on in the background to make that happen. Outside of that, you're seeing, again, more economic impact. As far as development, while I would like to say that I'd like to be further along in our pre-development efforts. We are where we are, and at this point, we were basically in month 5 there, and we are having all those conversations and making progress on a number of those fronts. So, while again, I wish I could say here, been well into land development, and we will talk about that in a few minutes. We are making a lot of progress on this project, and we will see that as we elaborate a little bit further. I'm going to hand it over to Dave here to start, just to kind of share the vision more on the cycling side, the velodrome side, and kind of go from there. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks. I know you all heard from me before, but actually we're pretty excited about this National Indoor Velodrome. It's evolved a lot since we spoke a number of years ago, but this will be the first world-class international indoor velodrome on the East Coast, and then only the second in the United States. The first one is out in California, where the 2028 Olympics will be held. So our goal here is to create both a vibrant community program at this facility, as well as stage a number of international, national, international, regional events. And there's a real need for that now. I don't know if you know what's going on with cycling, but it's exploding right now. And thanks to COVID, or no thanks to COVID, I guess, the sport has really increased dramatically in the last few years, and there's a real need for facilities that will allow the youth to be taught cycling. I think this is one key thing that a velodrome can do, is create youth programs that allows education of how to ride a bike safely, how to ride on a velodrome, but also transfer those skills out to outdoor riding. But we expect to have international riders staying here pretty much year-round that will be competing in the velodrome and also be serving as coaches and people that will help the youth. We've got an idea for a lot of different development programs, everything from young kids all the way up to older adults who may want to learn how to ride on the velodrome and participate in all the different activities. But just so you know, the velodrome and the arena itself will host many other events. So on the infield, it's about a 20,000 square foot infield of the velodrome, and that can be used when there's no spectator events going on for training, the track for training for cycling, but on the infield also it'll be marked out for various court sports, so we can host anything from pickleball to indoor basketball, or to basketball to indoor lacrosse, a number of different events that can be held as tournament finals, for example, in the infield, and gives the potential for additional spectator opportunities. So we hope to work on creating some regional, like regional championships and state championships, and attract people, or various leagues to come and do their finals here, where they'll be able to sell tickets for spectators and we'll be able to live stream what they're doing. So I will add at this point that our partners in this venture, Sports Facility Advisory, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but they are a national organization headquartered down in Clearwater, Florida. They have about 25 to 28, I guess now, indoor sports complexes that they manage around the country. So they're not only advising us on the development of this, but also will be working very closely, in fact, really leading the management of the overall facility. So we've gotten to know them over the last year or so. It's an amazing group. I think you've heard from some of their principals when we've had presentations in the past, but they're working on a daily basis with us to design this in the most efficient way, for the most opportunity for revenue. And I will say that lest you think that the velodrome is the only thing here, it's a major thing here. The velodrome represents about 30% of all of the revenue drivers that will come into the facility. So we've got a lot of youth programs, we've got family activity centers, meeting rooms, and all kinds of things like that. Most importantly, I think for everyone is the youth development programs that we want to institute here. We'll be working with a number of national organizations, and Sports Facility Advisory also does a number of youth programs in their facilities. The Aspen Institute Project Play, they have an SFN Access program for kids, which allows opportunity for disadvantaged kids to come in low cost or free to participate in various programs. They do this all around the country. There's a youth mentoring program in a variety of different sports that we want to institute here, and also talking to the YMCA about doing some activities with them in this facility. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for youth programming as we get started. And one of the other things that SFA does quite successfully around the country is a family entertainment center, where they bring a lot of kids and families to come in and participate in group activities. You know, they have everything from climbing walls to video games. They have e-commerce or esports facility that esports room, I guess it is, that they want to put in here, that is currently very popular around the country, and there are other facilities. So one of the things that I think is really good is that they've tested all of these things and they've run them in different locations. So they're going to be looking very carefully at what works in this market. You know, they're not going to put something in that isn't appropriate for Coatesville, or isn't appropriate for the region, or maybe there's other facilities like United Sports already having the same kinds of things. So we want to make sure that we complement those things as opposed to compete with head-to-head.
Can you hear me? I can't hear any of you, but if you can hear me, I'd just like to say that as an experienced private equity and real estate investor, I wish to confirm my commitment and excitement to developing the National Sports and Events Center on the Flats property at Coatesville. You can see this is an incredible project, transformational for the whole community. And from the standpoint of the development team, this change represents no diminishment in the financial support for the project, rather an increase in alignment and in the prospects for purposeful and exciting development. I appreciate the support of the RDA and the community of Coatesville in helping us to realize this transformational plan. I can't hear anyone else, but I hope you got to hear my excitement and commitment to the project. Hello.
Hello, Rick.
Yes, I can hear
Yeah.
you.
Oh, there. I hit something. I can hear. I can't hear the read. I can't hear the meeting. This is Gary Smith.
Yeah, I know, Gary, when you came on, I could start to hear you. When Sony or Sunny started to record it, I lost all audio.
Oh, okay. That's strange because I have the same problem here.
And I even signed off and signed back on without any luck.
Oh.
But I just sent a chat so I could.
So yeah, I saw your chat that came through, and that's when I was starting to push more buttons here, and I said, "Oh, okay, there you are," and now I can hear you. I could hear the tapping. I just thought that was something interference I have. I got house full of grandkids playing downstairs. It just popped in, so I wasn't sure what was happening here.
I
All
got
right,
you.
let me try to hook in as well, Rick, and see what's
Hey,
going
Gary?
on. Yes.
Gary, can you guys hear us?
Yes, we hear
I
you
can
now.
hear you
Thank you.
now.
All right. Let's try it this way.
The question from Lou was whether or not we have included a contemplation or thought about the Amtrak deed restriction when devising this plan. The answer is the plan that you see before you assumes that parking and vehicular access under the bridge would be permitted. Obviously, we're not even going to propose any buildings there. That goes without saying. We've talked as a development team, and Joe and Denny are aware of the restriction, and what we've tasked them with doing is coming up with version A, version B. This is version A. If version A, for whatever reason, because of the Amtrak restrictions, becomes unworkable, then we would default to version B. That will create, to be very clear, would create, excuse me, challenges with regard to accessing the northern portion of the site. It would almost necessitate, I don't think that's even too strong of a word, access in Valley Township. This plan, at least conceptually, works with access only from 30. If we're not able to maneuver through the site, the current thinking is that we would definitely need the access at Valley Township. We're aware of it, obviously. The engineers, designers are aware of it. The direct answer to your question, though, Lou, is no, we have not yet had that conversation. We wanted to get this concept plan and at least take the temperature of the city as to how they'd like to proceed procedurally. It's, no pun intended, we'll be proceeding on the Amtrak track and the municipal approval track simultaneously. If Amtrak presents an existential problem, we will have an alternative.
I think it creates a major issue to develop that site at all if this group, everybody in the city, doesn't commit to Amtrak. I mean, Geo Carlson has been operating on that site for years, running underneath that. You know, Michaels is running underneath it. So while I understand it behooves us to get the approval, it behooves everyone to ensure that it happens, because if we can't get the approval, I don't know what developer you're going to get in here to develop this site and tell them they have to go up on Glencrest to come into the site. It's just
the fact of the matter is it creates major
huge problem.
Circulation and accessibility problems.
Well, I just want you to all be aware that that was 2012 when we were negotiating with Amtrak. I think, the combination, Mr. Burkholder and Mr. Schuler can confirm Amtrak's willingness to be flexible about the terms and conditions of the quitclaim deed was not very strong. The other question I had was whether or not you were able to connect with city solicitor from their way about the river.
We have. Tony and I had a conversation last week. There are various options with regard to the Riverwalk that he and I talked about. We've talked about it as a team. The issue of the splash pad, we also discussed the issue of the splash pad. I don't think there's any, I think everybody is on the same page that the splash pad should be operated at a different site from this. As I said, Tony and I have had that conversation. He was going to go back and speak with city representatives, and obviously we've had a conversation amongst our development team as well.
Any other questions for these gentlemen? Have you completed the transition from Josh to Greg?
No, we were waiting to sign the final paperwork.
That does, under section 501, I believe, that does requires RDA approval.
Rick, can you still hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hey, Zeke. Zeke?
Yeah, James.
I was just wondering, is Gary Smith still on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello, James.
How you doing?
Fine,
I was
thank
just wondering, I mean, between you, Zeke, and some others here, you guys have a tremendous amount of history of Coatesville. Have you ever heard of anything in reference to Amtrak's kind of pushback, or maybe not so much, or I guess support for any development on the flats since Lukens?
I have never heard any pushback from Amtrak. In my experience, you know, when it was the Geo Carlson site, it was a yard that was in production, and I know it was a fab yard, as I recall it. And during my years, visiting the city, but I've never heard anything definitively that Amtrak would preclude any type of use on this property. For what purpose? I don't know what the purpose would be that Amtrak would have that position.
The only objection I could see Amtrak coming up with is you have to stay X number of feet away from our bridge supports, and certainly you can't build anything under the bridge. You have to stay, you know, you got to stay 50 feet from our bridge. I don't know what their requirements would be.
Right.
And looking at this plan, the worst thing that happens is it knocks some spaces out under the actual bridge. Not the driveway going back and forth, but just the parking space. Oh, no, you can't.
The way I've looked at it, and admittedly it's been some months since I looked at the language, but there's one thing that's definitely out of the question: building a structure. That's clearly out. Using the area under the bridge for accessibility, I think is allowed. I think that there's a very good reading that says that's allowed. Parking is what we'll have to end up discussing.
Can I Amtrak's favorite thing is identification.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was in development before, and the problem with that is like, if they have a train going across that bridge, and something comes off that train, you're not responsible. And they come down and get a car, or just be able to, that's where his biggest issue is going to be. It's not a parking thing, you're going to have to identify that and take some legal of your own to cover that. That's what it is. There's a whole written thing about it. If a rock falls off or something comes down and hits somebody. Not our problem. And that's the big deal. And they love them bowing down. They don't ever admit to any problems, so therefore when you find it,
Any other questions for the gentleman or their attorney? Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Citizens' comments on agenda items.
There's nothing in the chat.
We are not live on YouTube, we're all recording it.
Information on the Coastal train station, the bid for the train station has been pushed back 2 weeks to the 30th. My understanding is there were over 100 questions that popped up relating to the contract, and those all have to be answered adequately before they can proceed with opening a bid. I was told it will not affect the timeline for the train, but 2 weeks back to bid opening. Hopefully by the end of the month, we're going to get that. New business, letter A, receive and consider authorization to allow the RDA solicitor, Mr. Criminal, to negotiate Coachman Associate and prepare a settlement agreement subject to RDA review. We had discussed some of that earlier. And what's your pleasure, the solicitor, continue on that? I would make a motion to allow Lou to continue working on this Coachman Associates in light of the sale of the property at the sheriff's sale, and we have a new owner, and something moving up there.
The proposed version of the agreement would have to go out to you all
For final approval, whatever.
this is just to continue the
Yeah.
negotiation process.
Thank you, Ricky. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Letter B is to consider the monthly commission 4% for Bright Realty. We have the extension of Michael's lease, and Bright Realty wants, if you're gonna approve them, still getting their 4% from the extension.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Tyrone.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Letter C is, consider the action on 300 East Lincoln Highway, which the gentleman made a presentation to us a little earlier. That would be with Lou to negotiate, or to begin a redevelopment agreement with his attorney, so that we can kind of streamline the process a little bit.
I believe he announced a $300,000 offer.
At a $300,000 sales price. I'd make a motion to do that.
I'll second.
Thank you, Tyrone. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Letter D is the action on Idg Development. They would like to change the principal there from Josh Burrell and Activated Capital to Crosby Woods and Dave Chalner and Rick Mayer and his team.
I have a question.
Yes.
And can you tell us, what does that mean to us? What would be our pro or con, possibly?
I would ask that we move to executive session and not record this.
We'll be right back. Which is to consider the action on Idg Development's presentation to change the principles. It's not the RDA's intention to slow this project down. We want to keep this thing moving. We would feel comfortable if we could get some information on Cherry Creek. If you could get that to us in the next week, 10 days, is that up? And Crosby, if you want to email that information to me, I can get it to all the board members. Sure. That's easiest.
So nothing's stopping, we're not slowing you.
No, we don't want to slow you down, so
Get that information.
I would make a motion to approve the change in principles, with the understanding you're gonna get us some information to give us a little more comfort level.
And I'll communicate principal right now, I'll communicate that to work, I'll have him.
Okay, that's fine. You have my email.
Yep.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Citizens' comments, anything on the chat? Okay, our next meeting is October 18th. And I think we're ready to adjourn.
I made that motion. Somehow I'm always making.
Sam, you got something else I need to sign?
Did you adjourn?
Yep.
All right.
Actually.
See you later, Gary.
All right, thanks, James, I appreciate it. All right, have a
Thank
good
you.
one. We'll talk soon.
Easy.
Bye-bye.